Let's take a look at identity-based processes within and between groups. Once people perceive themselves to be members of a group, predictable processes begin to develop. Differences between groups on characteristics distinguishing one from the other are accentuated so that other groups appear to be more different from each other than they actually are. They're often perceived in stereotypical terms, especially negative ones. Motivational factors may also produce this perceptual bias. For example, it's easier to behave negatively towards others who are seen as depersonalized and as all alike. In employment settings, these intra and intergroup effects often occur among work teams, departments, or parts of the organization, different locations, or other organizational subgroups. Often, the most challenging group identities are those based on demographic characteristics. Research on group-based identity relevant to organizations has tended to focus on demographic basis. Identity research can be fragmented because gender identity has been studied by gender researchers, racio-ethnic identity has been studied by those interested in that characteristic, and so on. However, each individual experiences identity as a complex interplay of gender, racio-ethnicity, sexual orientation, social class, and other dimensions of personal significance. One theme in research on racio-ethnic identity is the idea that a sense of identity develops and changes over time. People move through stages as they mature in how they come to think about their racio-ethnic identity. One implication for diversity professionals is that people from the same racio-ethnic background may have very different understandings of this aspect of identity, and they're all at different developmental periods. For minority persons, one developmental task is coming to understand the distinction of themselves from the majority. In contrast, racial identity development of those in the dominant majority is often not particularly significant. Within the US, racial identity may develop differently in very homogeneous communities, schools, or employment settings, or in places where representation of various racio-ethnic groups is changing rapidly due to immigration. The distinction between racial and ethnic identity isn't always clear. Ethnic identity is distinct from racial identity, identification with a supposed biologically based heritage group. According to the US Census, now more than ever, people are identifying as more than one race. In contrast, most popular measures of ethnic identity have emphasized non or monoracial identities and given little attention to mixed racio-ethnic language. Many people in work settings experience complex aspects of identity. No one has only one ethnic or gender identity. Each person experiences an individual pattern of identity structure. This pattern may involve, to differing degrees, the sense of gender, ethnicity, religious affiliation, age group, family relationships, sexual orientation, social class, and region of origin. Identity may also include work-related attributes such as occupation, employment history, or level and type of education. Occupying two or more marginalized identity statuses, like minority sexual orientation and race, disability, and sex, can elicit a number of different reactions. Unfavorable treatment could be similar, addictive, manipulative, or just different. For example, when minority racial status amplifies or decreases the effect of minority sexual orientation status. Possibilities are even more complicated when an individual holds privileged status, like highly educated or professional, along with a marginalized one such as minority race or sex. As organizational diversity has increased and management of diversity and inclusion has become more sophisticated, diversity professionals have found themselves dealing with increasing intersectionality and social identity complexity. Employees must manage various aspects of their identities in order to be productive. Usually, employees modify or adopt identities when joining work organizations. Organizations select applicants based on qualifications for a particular job opening, as well as other factors such as perceived compatibility with the environment and other employees. Once hired, the new employee goes through a socialization period to learn about formal and informal aspects of the job and the organization. How does employee diversity fit into these processes? Potential employees similar in goals, values, attitudes, and personality are attracted to the organization. At the same time, the organization will also tend to select new members who are similar because of their perception of better fit. When an employee joins an organization, the process of socialization begins. The newcomer learns skills, knowledge, attitudes, and contextual information needed to function as a productive employee. Its length and formality can vary widely from simple orientation to a planned series of experiences involving on the job training, completion of workshops or short courses, mentoring, or a variety of other components. Employees who ask for feedback and build relationships report increased clarity and commitment.